all systems go for President Rodrigo Duterte's third State of the Nation address. The president is set to deliver his Sona at the Batasang Pambansa at 4 p.m. This annual tradition triumphs the administration's accomplishments, addresses the challenges, and what can Filipinos expect for the years to come. Also happening today, the 17th Congress will open its third regular session, and the Bangsamoro Organic Law is expected to be signed by the president before his Sona. CNN Philippines is closely monitoring the events leading to Mr. Duterte's Sona. Our correspondent Jace Ilas is at the Batasang Pambansa. Rex Remitio giving us the latest on security preparations and activities of President Duterte's supporters, and George Cahiles will give us the latest on protests in Quezon City. A CNN Philippines exclusive. Before the President's State of the Nation address, sources say that there is a possible shakeup in the leadership of the House of Representatives as some lawmakers plan to oust House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez. We are trying to get comments from lawmakers, including Alvarez himself. And to give us the latest on this developing story, our Joyce Ilas is at the Batasang Pambansa. Joyce, what is the latest?
Ria, after a 2-month break, congressmen will go back to their legislative work this morning. But a big change is looming here at the House of Representatives. A possible shakeup in the House leadership when session resumes this morning at 10 o'clock. Now, 3 lawmakers have told CNN Philippines that there is a move to oust House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez from his post, and that former President and now Pampanga Representative Gloria Macapagal Arroyo will be replacing him. Now, these 3 congressmen refused to be identified, but they said that the first daughter and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte asked for their support in ousting Alvarez and in electing Arroyo as the new speaker. One lawmaker said a congressman would move to declare the position of House Speaker vacant as soon as session opens at 10 in the morning today. Now, once approved, a motion to elect Arroyo as House Speaker would be made. Another lawmaker said that Duterte Carpio has been talking with Arroyo about taking over Alvarez's post since April. There's been bad blood between Duterte Carpio and Alvarez since early this year after the House Speaker allegedly declared her part of the opposition. He made the comment after President Duterte's eldest daughter formed a regional political party, Hugpong ng Pagbabago. Alvarez is Secretary General of the ruling party, PDP Laban. As of now, the House Minority Bloc, led by Quezon Representative Danilo Suarez, is holding a breakfast meeting, and Suarez, a known Arroyo ally, said that among the matters that they will be discussing in their breakfast meeting is the plan, or is the supposed plan to oust Alvarez when session resumes today. Now, House Majority Leader Rudy Farina said that there will also be an all-member caucus at 8:30 in the morning today, but he said that the agenda is the discussion of the results of the Bicameral Conference Committee meeting on the Bangsamoro Organic Law for the ARMM. I asked him about the plan to oust the House Speaker, but he has yet to comment on this matter. Ria?
All right, thank you very much, Joyce Ilas there, reporting from the Batasang Pambansa. Presidents commonly use their Sonas to make new promises to the people. We didn't hear much of that from President Duterte's Sona last year. In this report, our Ina Andalong tells us how Mr. Duterte opted to use his speech to warn his enemies and make appeals to different sectors.
Instead of promises, were appeals and warnings. President Duterte's second State of the Nation address wasn't too much about new plans. He used his speech to hit his enemies, like those in the illegal drug trade.
The fight will be unremitting as it will be unrelenting. Despite international and local pressures, the fight will not stop.
Criminals and corrupt officials, too, were not spared.
There is still so much to be desired, and if we are to completely eradicate the menace of illegal drugs, criminality, and corruption, we must do it. I therefore ask Congress to act on all pending legislations to reimpose death penalty on the heinous crimes, especially in the trafficking of illegal drugs.
He wants the death penalty back, but it's having a tough time in the Senate. The bill seeking to reinstate capital punishment has passed a third and final reading in the House of Representatives, but most senators say they're not for it. Anti-drug operations have continued, but even as President Duterte warned narco mayors over and over in the past months, only less than a dozen high-ranking former and incumbent officials have been arrested for drug charges since the start of President Duterte's term. Add to this, Osami City Mayor Reynaldo Parohinog Sr., who was killed in a drug raid. The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency released a list of barangay officials allegedly involved in the illegal drug trade, but officials are still in the process of building cases against them. Another sector the president said he was closely looking at, mining. Mining companies were told to replace and rehabilitate forests and other areas destroyed by their operations. If they failed to comply, the president had this warning.
You have to come up with a substitute, either spent to restore the virginity of their source, or I will tax you to death. Think of something that will compensate or make up for the damage, or at least the income restored. Yeah, otherwise, I'll have to stop mining.
For now, that remains to be an empty threat. There's no new tax scheme for mining companies, even with the Environment Secretary expressing support for higher taxes for industry players. President Duterte last month was still singing the same tune, giving the same warning, only this time he said he may ban open-pit mining if mining companies don't get their act together by year-end.
I decide by weeks and months. Baka ipagsara ko talaga ang mining na open pit. You know, we get about 70 billion in taxes mining. But I'd like to announce now, we'll have to compromise. We'll have to limit the destruction of the environment.
To lawmakers, the president asked for a review of the government procurement law to ensure faster delivery of goods and services. No significant development there. But his call for the establishment of a new office or department that could help Filipinos better respond to extreme disasters has seen some movement recently. The cabinet just approved its creation. But he did get what he wanted for the reproductive health law. The president called on the Supreme Court to lift the temporary restraining order on the reproductive health law. The High Court halted the distribution of 2 contraceptive implants pending a certification from the Food and Drug Administration that they are not abortifacients. The FDA has since issued them, effectively allowing the implants distribution. The president made it clear he's not just out to get the abusive rich. He said he'll also go after ordinary people creating trouble in the streets.
I will also enforce laws against anarchy, disturbance, and create trouble.
Urban poor group Kadamay wasn't allowed to occupy idle housing units anymore. And so-called tambays were initially ordered arrested. The president wanted them arrested for loitering, which is not a crime in the country, but he took it back days later and said that loiterers should just be sent home. Another highlight of the last Sona, his message to the United States. He wants the U.S. to return the Balangiga bells of Samar, spoils of war which were taken by American troops after they retaliated against Filipino guerrillas who killed their men in an unexpected attack.
Give us back those Balangiga bells. They are ours. They belong to the Philippines.
It was one of the most applauded parts of his last Sona, but the bells still aren't back. Ina Andolong, CNN Philippines.
The National Police is now on full alert ahead of President Duterte's third Sona this afternoon. The PNP is deploying at least 7,000 personnel stationed in almost all points near the Batasan complex. Our correspondent Rex Remitio is joining us live from there. Rex, what is the latest?
This is the area where thousands of supporters of President Duterte will gather near the Batasan complex. This is also the same area where President Duterte once allowed militant groups to assemble last year. He even met them after his speech where he was heckled and booed at the same time. But now, militants are only allowed up until the Commonwealth area where they've also set up their stage there. And the supporters will march from the corner of Commonwealth Avenue and Batasan Road until here at 9:30 in the morning. This includes the so-called DDS organizations, civil society, and overseas Filipino worker groups and individual supporters. Special Assistant to the President Bongo says this is not a rally but rather a gathering to give thanks to the President's accomplishments. Go is calling on supporters who will be going here to wear white and bring pro-Duterte banners. We have also seen many tarpaulins posted all over the place saying we support President Duterte and even Special Assistant to the President Bongo. Meanwhile, the National Police is now on full alert. They are deploying at least 7,000 personnel stationed in different areas surrounding the Batasan complex. The so-called force multipliers like the armed forces, the MMDA, and barangay tanods will also complement the police forces. The PNP is confident they can handle the 7 to 10,000 expected protesters. And he says that they're not expected to come to the area at the same time, but they're expecting the most number will come at around 2 to 3 in the afternoon, shortly before the president's speech. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Rex Remitio, reporting live there from Quezon City. The government continues its war versus illegal drugs, but do Filipinos feel safer? Also, now the consultative body tasked to review the 1987 charter finished its draft federal constitution, will the president reiterate his call for a shift in a federal form of government? Joining us now here in the studio, Interior and Local Government Spokesperson, Assistant Secretary Jonathan Malaya. Mr. Malaya, thank you for coming on Newsroom.
Thank you also. Thank you, Ria. Thanks for having me here.
All right, so let's get right to it. Let's talk about the war on drugs. It's been front and center of this administration. 2 years in, how would you assess the government's progress in the war versus illegal drugs?
Well, there has been very good, significant gains in terms of the war on drugs. We can see this in how people react to how safe they feel they are in the country. In the latest SWS survey, people said that 57% feel safer compared to 6 months ago. So I think that's the real determinant of whether something is effective. It's not really government saying we arrested this, we arrested that. It's really how people feel on the ground. And I think because of the positive results from SWS, we're confident and we're happy that things are doing well.
Okay, so recent government data shows that at least 4,000 people died in drug-related operations. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as I said, there's been a lot of speculations on this. Whenever there's a death, whether in a drug operation, there's always the allegation of a state-sponsored killing. And we didn't see this only because of the war on drugs. They also see it because some of the mayors were being killed, some of the vice mayors were being killed. So it really enters into that narrative of the culture of violence. Yeah? The narrative which the opposition is trying to portray, that this is all part of a grand scheme to kill more people and therefore, So the 4,000 that you're mentioning, some of them were killed in legitimate operations of the Philippine National Police. Others are not related to the drugs, but they are just patterned and placed under the general description of EJK.
Okay. How would you react to those who are saying that the war versus illegal drugs is a war versus the poor? Because people are asking, well, where are the high-value targets in this war against drugs?
Well, there's a lot of arrests that have been made, but the problem is the focus of the criticism has always been to the poorer sections of the community. For example, we have arrested some 385,000 people in the war against drugs, and we have conducted 102,630 anti-drug operations. So we're not hitting just a certain segment of the population, we're hitting everyone who's been involved in the drug trade.
Okay, so now to assess the peace and order situation in the country in general, are these campaigns effective, you think?
Yes, I think they are. If we look at the statistics coming from the Philippine National Police, in terms of the index crime, from comparing the data from 2014 to 2018, there has been a 49.65% decrease in index crimes. And in terms of the average monthly crime rate, in 2016, that was 47.14%. It's been decreasing to 36.32% in this year. And the crime solution efficiency of the Philippine National Police has also increased from 57.3% in 2016. It's now 61.11%. So on a general average, if we're looking at the entire country, there's really been an improvement in the peace and order situation.
Okay, now you are also the government's federalism campaign chief. Do we expect Mr. Duterte to push this in the Sona today?
Well, I'm just one of the many who are campaigning for federalism. It's really a government effort, and there are many volunteer groups and organizations that are pushing for it. Well, we expect the president to mention that in his Sona. The federal constitution, as you mentioned, has already been finished by the consultative commission. It was given to him. He gave some instructions and had some adjustments in the federal constitution. And I'm sure he's going to mention it later on. So we will see in his body language and in his message to the Filipino people on the timing and transition towards a federal system.
Okay, well, what's your reaction to surveys that Filipinos are not yet ready for a federal form of government? So a survey shows that we are not ready for this. SWS surveys says that the Filipinos' awareness on federalism is really not that high. You have 25% who are aware, 75% who are not.
Yes. We, of course, recognize the Pulse Asia survey, and we're using the survey as a guide in how we go about the campaign. But it's really no surprise that the awareness is low. Why? Because the federal constitution has just been done. It's just been finished by the CONCOM. So there's really nothing to explain yet before. If we had this federal constitution a year before, then it would have been easier for us to go around the country and explain to them. But since the CONCOM just finished its task, we don't really have a lot of time to be able to explain this to the public. Now that the CONCOM has finished its draft, we now have a specific product or model which we can distribute to everyone, and that's what the DILG's task is. Our task is to reproduce this model, produce guides and primers and brochures which we can hopefully distribute to as large a segment of the population so that people understand what really is the direction insofar as the President's agenda of pushing for a federal system of government.
All right. President Duterte is in good health ahead of his third State of the Nation address. That's according to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque after the president went to the Cardinal Santos Medical Center for a routine checkup last night. Roque says Mr. Duterte spent about an hour and a half for the examination. Duterte, now 73 years old, will deliver his third Sona at 4 p.m. at the Batasang Pambansa. He earlier said that he will talk for only 35 minutes. NCRPO Chief Guillermo Eleazar says police have been coordinating with leaders of groups who will stage protests today. He tells CNN Philippines they expect the protesters to follow their guidelines.
Kagaya nung mga previous sonas, the leaders of the different groups have been coordinating with us. And based on their experience, naging maayos ito dahil sa aming pag-uusap. You know, kung meron kasing pag-uusap, chances are meron kang susunduan or agreement just like what has happened here. And since there is an agreement, nakapaglatag tayo ng mga guidelines and panuntunan for everybody to follow. And so we're expecting na susunod sila doon sa ating usapan. In fact, itong mga setup natin kung saan sila nakalagay, this is because of this upon their request. We are offering the IBP road just like what happened for the past two sonas, but they opted to occupy Commonwealth Avenue. That is why the pro-Duterte group, dito natin ilagay sila sa IBP road para hindi sila magkasama at magkatabi. And we are expecting that they will follow the guidelines that we have set. And the police now, just like the two previous zonas, the directive of our Chief PNP is wala tayong container ban, no barbed wire, and the police have no firearms, yung mga members ng ating CDM contingents.
Eleazar also says there is a small probability that President Duterte will meet the protesters, but they have measures in place in case this happens.
Well, it would probably be something different after all these years. From 1992 to the present, yeah. I've always been on ground zero, as sometimes we call it. Because majority leader was the highest position that I ever had for quite a long time. So it will be the first time.
Okay, first time na nandun
kayo. Must be exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Pero cool na cool pa rin kayo. Para bang...
Oh, yes. I still feel like a regular senator. I don't feel like the Senate President. Yeah, and that's how I want my colleagues to treat me, and that's how I treat them, as my colleagues.
Yeah. Later, in a bit, sir, we'll go back to what it's like being the Senate President. But first, I want to ask other questions muna. In terms of, what is it that you would like to hear in the President say in his Sona, and what do you not want to hear?
I'd like to hear him put a lot of emphasis on the universal health package. And if possible, if he could include also the possibility of finally free medicines for the Filipino. We're capable, and the government hospitals are capable. And if we have enough funding, then even the private hospitals may be subsidized by government when it comes to medicine. And of course, PhilHealth. And then hopefully, I hope the President also gives more emphasis on the issue of illegal drugs and drug abuse. He has emphasized illegal drugs and the problem of illegal drugs more on the issue of supply reduction strategy. But I hope that this time he would emphasize demand reduction strategy.
What do you mean by that?
When you say supply reduction, it's a concentration on enforcement and prosecution. Somehow, in the last 2 years, and that's what I like about the previous Sonas, is that the illegal drugs has finally been addressed head on, holding the bulls by the horn, so to speak. Pero the emphasis on prevention and rehabilitation has not been truly, placed in the forefront. So I hope the president will give more emphasis this time on preventive education and rehabilitation, and that composes demand reduction. You see, if we do not have drug dependence, we do not have addicts, there will be no drugs.
No market.
No
Nobody
market.
will want to buy the drugs now.
Correct. The bottom line is the day we stop buying is the day they stop selling.
Okay. Is that doable? Can we do that in this country?
It's doable as long as I said, this holistic approach is done. Not only supply reduction, but demand reduction.
Demand reduction. Would this be part of demand reduction? In the last few weeks, pinag-uusapan kasi yung halimbawa, testing school children, high school students. Yung ganun ba? Kailan ba natin gawin yon? Ano bang...
Actually, hindi na intindihan ng iba yung strategy na yun eh. Kasi akala nila yung strategy na yun is just to witch hunt those drug users. Actually, it's just an awareness program.
Okay.
It's part of preventive education. To inform them that there's drug testing. And why? Because drugs is bad. Because drugs will ruin your life, will ruin your family, will ruin your future. Those are part of the preventive education strategies. But I don't know how PIDEA is formulating it or presenting it. But if they present it as a preventive education program, it will not have objections too much.
Well, sir, in the last 2 years, we've had quite a number of killings, and because of the the war on drugs, yung mga operations, halimbawa, ganun. And sometimes there has been a lot of criticism about these killings. No, how do we handle that?
There are rules of engagement and the courts that we can bank on. But then, let us look at the figures also. Not just condemn totally the police or the administration for what they termed as EJKs. And that's what I did in the last year.
Yeah.
We took figures, and I found out that there were, as of March 2018, I don't know about the figures now, I'm talking about until March 2018, there were approximately 68,000 drug operations, police drug operations. In those 68,000 police operations, there were more than 78,000 arrests. Now, how many are the killings? It's less than 6. Less than 6,000.
Okay.
Di ba, admitted ng police na namatay sa kanila sa police operations around 3,000. Nadagdagan, sabi nila, yung kaya daw ginagawang 6,000, o kwento daw ng iba is 10,000. Pero sinama nila yung figures ng homicide, riding in tandem ng mga assassination, all that. Hindi naman really in police operations. So if you look at that, then perhaps what some international media people are saying that the EJ cases all over the country, if that is true, then there should be 78,000 deaths out of the 68,000 PNP drug operations. These figures, the exact figures are with
So para bang pinapalaki lang natin yung issue? Ganun ba? We're going overboard na ba?
We're not looking at it in its proper context. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Senator Soto, I wanted to ask you also about yung charter change, no, federal presidential. What is the sense of the Senate, or more correctly, the 24 members of the Senate, when it comes to postponing, moving the elections in 2019? I wanted to ask about charter change naman, federal presidential, the elections in 2019. Ano ba yung alam ko naman ho, sinabi naman po ninyo na July 24 pa yung caucus ng Senate, no? Pero
Caucus, majority caucus,
majority.
and then the
and
all
all
senators
Senate.
caucus.
Oo. Pero meron na ba kayong idea, what is the sense of the 24 members of the Senate when it comes to all these issues?
The way I size up some of my colleagues, it is quite difficult to convince them to join the perspective of postponing elections or extending the terms of the public officials. Most of them are not in favor. I really can't say until I talk to them personally and that we discuss it officially on Tuesday after the Sona.
Pero kayo po, personally, you feel that we shouldn't move the elections, we should have elections?
I'd rather ask first, I'd rather ask those proposing it the question of why do we need it? It is that easy to do it. It's very difficult to do it. Yes, there are three ways of doing it. One is constitutional convention, which is will take a long time. The other is constituent assembly,
Which will take up all your time?
most of
Your time.
but cheaper because we're already there. Offices and employees are there. And the third is people's initiative. In order to call for a constituent assembly, both houses of Congress have to pass a joint resolution. And as far as the Senate is concerned, the only way we will pass a Senate joint resolution to call for a constituent assembly is if we are voting separately. I can assure you that that is the mentality of most, if not all, of the members of the Senate. So now, the recent proposal of a people's initiative in order to extend the terms of the public officials or to postpone elections, because we can't postpone. We can postpone the date, but we cannot extend the term of the elected officials. Therefore, they are proposing a people's initiative. The people's initiative in the Constitution needs an enabling law. There was a law passed in 1989, Republic Act 6735, that mandated people's initiative. It was struck down by the Supreme Court later on to be inadequate. And therefore,
There is no way.
right now,
that
there
we
is
can
no
have a
people's initiative unless, again, both houses of Congress pass a bill or a law enabling the people's initiative. That will pass the standard set by the Supreme Court on how a people's initiative should be done.
Okay. Sabi nyo kanina, we cannot extend the terms of elected officials. So that means June 30, 2019. Which means if there is a postponement, if a postponement of elections, instead of the first or the second Monday of May, dapat before the June 30. In other words, I mean, ganun lang yun, wala nang iba.
Then
So,
what will fall into place would be the as may be provided by law, yung nakalagay sa Constitution na gano'n. Then we can reset the elections. We can reset it earlier. That is possible. But the terms of how can we do that when October is the filing?
Right.
It's out of the question already. Because October is the filing. If we need to do anything to that effect, and you need to amend the Constitution to do that, you need to do it before October of 2019.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the judiciary. So, wala tayong Chief Justice ngayon. Of course, si Presidente naman ang mag-appoint. Malapit nang mag-retire na rin si Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales. I wanted to ask you, who do you think will be chosen? Do you have an idea?
I refuse to answer because I have my own candidates.
Yun ang next question natin.
I'm supporting some. I'm supporting quite a few.
Okay. For Chief Justice, who?
And for Ombudsman, well, I don't want to tell you.
Pero, well, yung automatic candidate kasi like yung the five most senior associate justices. So one of them, one of the five. Yes?
Yes.
Which one? The most senior?
It's just, my personal
Okay.
support.
O sige, without naming
But
them.
I'd rather not say because
sige,
all of
don't
the
say na
others,
lang who.
all
Don't
of
say
the
who.
others are my friends.
So don't say who, but can you describe na lang the person?
Very competent.
Oh, wow, okay. So that would be who? Well, there are 5 senior associate justices, he says. Very competent.
All of them are
All of
competent.
them are competent. Okay. So, ombudsman naman, you also have someone in mind.
Yes. I hope lang. I hope. Keep my fingers crossed that because I know that particular candidate is very competent and level-headed.
Okay. And
Very good record, very good reputation. And I refuse to give his name.
his name sa lalaki. Sa ombudsman, sa CJ, lalaki din. Okay.
That's as far as I can go.
Okay.
Iya, can we move on to the next
We'll move
question?
on na ba? Sige, let's move on. Since we napag-usapan si Chief Justice Sereno, have you thought about what it would have been like if na-impeach na nga si CJ Sereno ng House? Tapos yung articles of impeachment forwarded sa Senado. So there would have been an impeachment trial. Would Sereno have been convicted? Would have there been enough votes? Would there have been enough votes? What would have happened?
That would be very difficult to answer now, but my answer would probably be prefaced by saying that then I would not be Senate President. Because I refused to be elected before the impeachment trial. I'd rather not review and study rules of court.
You would not have wanted to preside over an impeachment trial?
I'd leave Coco Pimentel to preside.
Ganun.
Anyway, he was bar top notcher. He could do it better than I could.
So mabuti na rin yung nangyari, tinanggal na lang siya ng
Okay na rin.
kasamahan niya.
Oo, it's,
Okay na rin. Pero tama din yun. Still constitutional. Her
Yes,
removal.
it's in the provision that describes the Supreme Court.
Okay. Senator Soto, I wanted to ask this because this is something that Speaker Alvarez brought up when we interviewed him, and he's batting for these 2 measures, the dissolution of marriage and civil union, and he was saying that he's very hopeful that it would be well received here in the Senate. What are the chances?
Same-sex union. Union. I have no problem with that. To each his own. But same-sex marriage, or were you asking about divorce?
Civil union, na ayaw nilang tawaging same-sex marriage. Civil union, no marriage involved, just civil union.
What do they mean by civil union?
O kahit daw hindi magkasama, kunyari nasa ospital, tapos kasama
Pero
yung live-in partner. Yes, it's parang more for practical reasons.
Once na nagkaroon ng marriage contract, marriage yun, it's...
Yeah. Hindi, pero halimbawa nasa ospital nga, kunyari magpipirmahan, tapos hindi kasi next of kin yung magka-live-in partner.
I'm sorry, but parang hindi ko makuha kasi yung sense ng sinasabi nilang civil union.
Okay.
Walang papeles, walang sinasabing marriage sila, walang problema. It's like same-sex union.
Yeah.
But same-sex marriage, medyo, I don't think I can support.
So yung dissolution of marriage na hindi naman nila tinatawag na divorce bill. Dissolution of marriage, how would that fare here in the Senate?
The dissolution of marriage proposal would merit a look or even a second look. But the chances of passing something to that effect in the Senate would be expanding the provisions of ano ba to, yung annulment.
Okay.
Kung luluwagan natin ang annulment, mas madali yun.
Alright.
Mas madali yun at baka mas katanggap-tanggap yun.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about the Catholic Church and God. But specifically, how you view the way President Duterte spoke about God and the Catholic Church, tsaka kung paano niya na-handle yung nangyaring criticism afterwards.
Well, binawi naman niya, pero I don't understand kasi the context that he wanted to say then. So I really, on a personal note, I brushed it off.
Okay.
But of course, I'm a very religious person. Even up to the present, ako'y saradong Katoliko.
Well, from one president to another, I wanted to ask about President Aquino. He's facing charges of Mamasapano, DAP, Dengvaksha. What do you think is happening? But sir, just President Aquino, he's facing many charges.
Well, I believe that President Aquino believes in the justice system in the Philippines, and therefore he'll face them.
Well, speaking of facing, there's Facebook, there's Twitter. You are on Facebook, you are on Twitter. Kayo
Yes.
mismo yung nagtitweet?
Oo. Dun
Talaga?
sa actual na akin, hindi rin sa mga Sa anong tawag na parodies?
Okay. Pero yung sa inyo, Soto, Twitter, no? Soto
Yeah.
_ Tito.
That's right.
But you have deleted tweets before?
Well,
Or-
yes. If I think that it's not a good tweet or
Okay. Okay. What do you like about being on social media? Do you like it? I mean,
not really, but
Not
it's
really.
it's like it's a must. You should be adept because otherwise the millennials will be
yeah. So you
thinking
need
that you're as old as you are.
okay.
I mean, I'm talking
Yeah,
about
as old as
myself.
you are.
As
So
old
you-
as I am.
Okay. So you
And,
need to be there. Ganun lang yun. And then and then you
And sometimes, really, it's engaging.
Oo. But you seem very, I was reading your tweets. Para bang you seem very candid. Talagang you say exactly what's on your mind.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Most of the time. Do you regret, and you regret it sometimes?
Sometimes,
Oo.
if I feel that I have offended someone or something, I remove the tweet.
Okay. Is there something you don't like about social media that you know?
Irresponsible. Kuminsan irresponsible, especially the fake news. And sometimes there are people who when they see it in the internet, think that it's true.
Yeah. And
Or it's
anything they
correct.
read is real.
Oo,
Tapos
parang tinatanggap
share and
para sa
retweet.
lahat eh,
Ganun.
yeah. That's the only setback.
Yun okay. But it doesn't mean
Irresponsible, unlike real journalists and mainstream media, na you have to be responsible for what you say. You know, you counter check.
Oo. We are accountable.
Yes, you are accountable. You see, so yun lang. Ito walang accountability.
Sir, kanina, di ba, pinag-usapan natin yung, and I wanted to ask you more about being Senate President. No? So, in your acceptance speech, sabi niyo kasi that you never thought you would get to this point sa inyong political career. And then you also said something interesting. Sabi niyo, you have a template of a Senate President because you served under 9 of them.
No, I said I just need to follow the template
Follow the template.
of the 9 Senate presidents.
Okay.
And I will probably be able to deliver
Yeah.
of what my colleagues expect as a
Yeah.
Senate president.
Oh. What specifically dun sa
Well,
template? na yan? Sino
the
yung-
way you treat your employees, the way you treat your colleagues, especially both majority and minority,
Yeah. Oo.
and then push for the more important priority measures.
Of course, our energy carbon neutral amendments. Senator Ralph Recto, Mr. President, who changed everything.
I was about to say that.
Yes, sir.
To change the entire bill.
Yes, who practically helped us write a new law from the BTC version, which was, Mr. President, which was acceptable and welcome by all sectors because he had nothing but transparency and accountability in his mind and his heart to make sure that the funds earned in Batangas as well as Bukidnon and the other areas of the country will be properly utilized and spent. And I also forgot to mention our secretariat, Mr. President.
What about the weapons amendment of Senator Onasa?
Yes, we'd like to also mention the weapons amendment, amendments to the Armed Forces of the Philippines section of the bill. Thank you to Senator Greg and to all the members. Senator Bam also gave a number of amendments and those who participated. Of course, Senator Villar, who was always concerned about how public funds will be spent and how it should be placed in different orders to make sure that priority spending would be done. Together with Senator J.V. Ejercito, who went with us to Camp Darapanan, risking his own life. We all know the history of his father in the early period of 1999. His presence in Camp Darapanan was very welcomed by the MILF and said, peace can finally reign because even former enemies will now become friends, Mr. President. And again, all the other members of the Senate that supported us in this noble and historic moment for our country, Mr. President. Imagine how many decades, 4 decades and 100,000 lives lost will finally be put to an end. Mr. President, I'd like to now recognize one of the senators who single-handedly improved the Bangsamoro basic law into what it is now, the Bangsamoro organic law. Mr. President, I move to recognize our Senate President Pro Tem, Ralph Recto.
The President Pro Tem, Senator Recto is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the Majority Leader and the sponsor of this measure. Thank you for his kind words. But, Mr. President, I support the Bicameral Conference Committee report. I voted in favor, essentially because what has passed is essentially the Senate version, Mr. President, with the exception of 1 or 2 provisions, Mr. President. I do have some reservations as far as these one or two provisions are concerned, particularly on the 40% development fund, which was not adopted in the BICAM version, Mr. President. And just to manifest on and to put on record, Mr. President, that in the first 3 years, there is a fiscal cost to the national government here, Mr. President, as I mentioned during the period of amendments. And roughly, our calculation is roughly 370 billion in the next 3 years, Mr. President. And that is why we put on record amendments in the Senate version then that 40% of this money should be spent for development projects. I understand that there is a process in the BICAM and that they put a limitation on the PS and wrote certain language that health and education should be given utmost priority. But like I said, I do have reservations because if 40% was deleted, then that money can be spent for other purposes instead of development projects. That is one, Mr. President, just to put that on the record. And the second issue is that what was also deleted is the 50-50 hating kapatid sharing, Mr. President. And I take note that in the Bicameral Conference Committee report, for the next 10 years, the Bangsamoro region will not contribute anything to the national government. Not a single cent to the national government, at least in the first 10 years. So these are my reservations on the measure, but in whole, I support the Bicameral Conference Committee, and it is only fitting to congratulate the Majority Leader and the Chairman of the Committee for working very hard and for essentially defending also the Senate version, and to all the members of the Bicam Committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, just to quote my Senate President Pro Tem, in a newspaper article today, he said that, "I would rather have an expensive peace rather than a cheap war." And I salute you for that, sir. Peace is expensive, yes, but we would rather not lose any more lives to achieve it. So we thank you, sir, for your invaluable support of the measure. So, Mr. President, before we suspend session, may request our colleagues to remain in the session hall for the photo session. May we advise the public not to enter the hall while the photo session is ongoing. And we ask everybody all the members of the Senate to just be with us as soon as we suspend. Mr. President, there being no further business, I move that we suspend session until 4 o'clock this afternoon, at which time we shall reconvene at the session hall of the House of Representatives to hear, only to hear, Mr. President, the State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte in a joint session of both House of Congress and the Senate. And when we adjourn the joint session, the session of the Senate shall be considered adjourned till tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Any objection?
Are you looking forward to in the President's State of the Nation address?
Well, maybe enumeration of the achievements of the Duterte administration for the past year, and then maybe a mention of the bills signed into law that affects directly the lives of ordinary citizens. Like, for instance, Free Irrigation Act, free education, college education in public schools.
Yeah, that was very well received.
Yes, tapos hopefully signing of the BBL.
Mm-hmm. And we are hoping, you are expecting
During
that
the
this will
Sona.
happen during the Sona.
During the Sona.
Talaga?
Yes.
During the Sona.
Yes.
Not even before, but during.
No, during the Sona.
Oh, so that might be one of the highlights?
Yes, because if...
So habang nagsusona siya, biglang
so in the morning, pwede naming aprubahan yung inaprubahan ng BICAM.
Okay.
And then, in the afternoon, during the Sona, pwede nang pirmahan ng presidente.
Yeah, that's going to be quite dramatic because a lot of people are looking forward to that. At the same time, it will be the first in history. As far as back as I can remember, no other president has signed anything during a Sona.
Yes, but it's possible.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay. But what do you also hope and think we will hear apart from that, no, or see?
Well, maybe a reiteration of his advocacy, the war against illegal drugs, of course, the how to curb criminality, and maybe corruption.
Okay. Do you think he's going to detail exactly what he's going to, what he's going to do about the war on drugs and the war on crime?
I don't know, but alam mo naman si Presidente during his speeches, lumilihis siya doon sa prepared speech.
May bago ring parang feature sa Sona this year. Meron na kayong bagong seatmate, si Senator Tito Soto, Senate President.
Yes. I mean, that is most welcome.
Okay. Well, let's talk, Speaker, about charter change naman. No? The drive to amend the 1987 Constitution. So you have the Constitutional Commission submitting a proposal to transform government into a federal presidential. What is it about federalism that will guarantee what the Duterte administration has always said is its battle cry, a comfortable life for all?
Kasi hindi naman ito basta sabihin mong delegation of powers, no? But ini-empower lang talaga yung sinishare yung power ng national government doon sa mga regions. So, I mean, yung regions mismo can now chart their own destinies.
Okay. Well, if you chart your own destiny, part of that is also in taxation. Parang the power to tax will also be shared, kumbaga, no, with the federal government. How is that going to work? So we pay taxes at national level. We have big income taxes, and then we will also have federal tax.
Yun ang gusto kong makita. Kung ano yung mga shared powers na pinopropose ng Constitutional Commission. Kasi kami dito, meron din kami of course na version namin doon sa revised Constitution. So, titignan namin paano kami mag-reconcile.
Yeah, okay. In essence, what is the version of the House of Representatives when it comes to taxation?
There are areas na exclusive sa region, may mga areas na exclusive sa national government, at saka may mga areas naman na shared between the region and the national government.
Can you tell us what those are?
I can't enumerate.
Wag na muna. Okay, sige. The minute you say charter change, and no other administration has gone this far. As a matter of fact, every past administration has always had problems kapag charter change ang pinag-uusapan. So how do we guard against another lengthy stay in power? Ano yung magiging mga safeguard mechanisms na?
May mga ang balita ko lang, no? May mga proposal yung Constitutional Commission na of course yung may provision doon sa anti-dynasty. Tapos meron siyang term limits, no, na provisions. Pero for me, the way I look at it, siguro okay yung maybe anti-dynasty, no, na provisions, but yung term limits, yun medyo kailangan pag-aralang mabuti. You know why? Kung titignan natin, nung wala pang term limits, walang dynasty.
Okay.
I think what triggered political dynasty, itong term limits. Kasi kung hindi na nga makatakbo yung yung official, so andyan na yung mga anak, andyan yung asawa, 'di ba? Kaya nagkaroon ng nag-evolve yung yung dynasty. Tingin ko naman yung provision ng anti political dynasty, okay 'yon. Pero yung term limits, bakit anong masama doon?
Yeah. Term limits for legislators, senators, congressmen. That's what we're talking about, right? Okay. What about?
Pero yung sa presidente, siguro one re-election. Parang sa Amerika.
Which is their proposal anyway, 4-year term tapos one re-election.
At saka pag pumili ka ng presidente, your vote for the president must be your vote for the vice president.
Yeah.
Kung parliamentary presidential ka.
Ang term nyo hanggang ang mga congressmen and yung senators who were voted into office in 2013 hanggang 2019. So ngayon, ang iniisip ng mga tao, sabihin natin by next year may plebiscite, magbotohan na sa Constitution. Paano na ngayon i-adjust? May adjustments ba mangyayari? How is it gonna happen? If your term is until 2019, so...
Para sa akin lang, if we are damn serious in really revising the Constitution, let's be realistic sa schedule. Tinan mo, Sona tayo ng itong July 23. Ibibigay sa amin yung NEP, National Expenditure Program, for next year. So, kailangan namin bigyan ng ano yan, ng oras yan. Tapos, medyo maiksi din yung ano namin, yung sessions, dahil may mga international commitments tayo. IPA, IPU, at
Interparliament.
lahat ng mga ganyan, di ba? Na nagre-require ng attendance ng participation ng House at saka ng Senado. So, habang ginagawa natin yung budget, and then October magpa-file ka ng Certificate of Candidacy mo. O paano yan?
Okay. So now you're saying, how are we going to squeeze everything, convening yourself into a constituent assembly? At the same time, you have your regular
Yes.
work that you need to attend to, October filing COC. So you're saying that
Para sa akin,
let's be reasonable and allow a term extension. Is that what you're saying?
Kasi kung filing ka ng October, wala na, magkakampanya na yun.
Yes.
So ano pang time?
Yeah, wala na
Wala
oras.
na.
So, let's go
Tapos-
for term extension. Ang hindi
Tapos-
lang natin ma-extend ngayon, sir, yung oras sa gap. Let's pick up from where we left off. You are arguing for, or you are advocating for a term extension for senators and congressmen, precisely because you need to attend to this amending the charter.
Oo, kasi if that is the priority, so, let's be realistic with the schedule. Diba? January, gagawin yan, and then may requirement ng massive information campaign, diba? So gagawin natin yan to educate the people who will be voting for the plebiscite. So, pagkatapos aprubahan niya ng mga tao, let's say na-approve, then still you need a transition government. So ang proposal ko dyan is, dapat yung election 2022. Sabay-sabay lahat yan.
So, term extension, you're saying no elections in 2019. Sabi mo
Yun ang
2022.
yun ang
iniisip mo.
pinaka-practical.
Oo. Okay.
Diba?
When we also talk about term extension, people are also thinking of the term of the incumbent president and
Hindi
vice
kasama
president.
yun. Kasi mag-expire naman ang presidente at vice president sa 2022. So doon mag-election tayo, sabay-sabay. Lahat.
Okay. So, pagdating, kasi ang mangyayari, hindi po ba yung CONCOM magsasabit kay presidente, si presidente, dadalhin naman niya sa Congress itong proposal. When that happens, you convene as a constituent assembly.
Yes.
And when you do that, you will be convening separately, jointly.
Ganito kasi yan, Pia. When Congress convenes into a constituent assembly, magkakaroon ng panibagong life. Apart from our term as congressmen, senators. Para kang nag-elect ng CONCON, di ba? Constitutional Convention delegates, di ba? So magkakaroon ka ng panibagong buhay. Kasi constituent assembly ka na eh. Hindi ito yung
Yeah, but you will still be senators and congressmen functioning as the House and the Senate.
As parang delegates.
Yeah. In the past, when you convened jointly, for example, to extend martial law in Mindanao, malaking away pa yung, do we vote separately, do we vote jointly? So this time, ano yung mangyayari? Vote jointly, separately?
Ang nakalagay lang, kahit nabasahin nyo yung provision, may required number of votes. 3/4 of all its members, of all Congress members. No? So pag sinabi mong of all its members, so it refers to Congress as a whole, di ba? Both houses yan. Oo. Yung nag-i-espouse ng voting separately, siyempre, sasabihin nila, pag sinabing of all its members, individual, no? May House, may Senate, di ba? So, gray area 'yon sa ating saligang batas.
Okay,
Oo.
all right.
Pero para sa akin naman, mas maganda na yung mag-usap yung dalawang both houses para wala nang
Yeah, well, last time you ended up voting jointly, but
wala
yeah.
mang problema.
Okay, let's move on, sir. Peace and order. No, in the first week of July, we had 2 mayors killed, 1 day apart. The mayor of Tanawan, Batangas, on a Monday. On Tuesday, the following day, the mayor of Janutino in Nueva Ecija, and then others, priests, many others. How is the Duterte administration and Congress in the supporting role going to deal with this, going to clamp down on all of this?
Kung pag-aaralan natin yung mga killings, different motives eh. Merong involved sa illegal drugs, merong involved o merong politically motivated kasi wala naman sa involvement sa drugs yung yung mayor yung yung sa Nueva Ecija. So iba-ibang anggulo, no? So part to ng of course ng criminality sa buong bansa. I think General Albayalde is qualified to address these problems.
Okay. So it doesn't require, kumbaga, drastic action, state of emergency, martial law, anything that will require the attention of the national government.
No.
Hindi naman. So it is basically a peace and order, law enforcement issue.
Yes.
Well, what about, so you have that AFP uncovering the communist plot to unseat the president, terrorism, etc. There is this feeling that there's so much going on now. Do you see the Duterte administration coming in to deal with this decisively or no?
Well, para sa akin, yes. Kasi national security yan. Like, for instance, yung entry ng yung ISIS sa ating bansa, talagang big threat yan. National security yan. Yung ginagawa nung komunista, siyempre, nung araw pa, ginagawa na nila yan. Diba? Pero hindi natin pwedeng hayaan na ganun na lang. We really have to address it also.
Yeah, okay. But how do we address it? Still, law enforcement, armed forces actions. But
magkasama yan. Dapat yung PNP at saka yung ating AFP.
Okay. Let's talk about the next Chief Justice and the next Ombudsman. First, the next Chief Justice. Who would you like to see as the next Chief Justice?
Well, para sa akin, as long as merong integridad, yung walang tililing, mas okay yun. Kasi mahirap yung Chief Justice na mayroong tama sa utak.
Okay. Do you have someone in mind?
Wala.
Wala, okay.
Palagay ko naman, wala nang ewan ko kung meron pang natirang may tililing dyan sa Supreme Court.
Meron pa ba?
Hindi ko alam.
Okay. Well, the 5 most, it's automatic naman po ba, hindi po ba yung the 5 most senior associate justices? So that's Carpio, De Castro, Velasco, Bersamin, Peralta.
Or maybe from the outside.
Yeah, from the outside. Pero
Pwede
sir,
rin.
before we go to the outside, kung yung 5 most senior associate justices ang pag-usapan natin, so nag-bow out na si Carpio, out na siya, ayaw na niya, out of the running, si Presby magre-retire, si Teresita De Castro din dapat mag-retire. So, kumbaga naiwan na lang, tira na lang si Bersamin tsaka si Peralta. You, knowing the president
Qualified
very well.
naman pareho yun. Qualified pareho.
Inunahan niya na ako sagot.
Qualified.
Qualified pareho. Pero sa tingin nyo, would you, could you hazard a guess who would the president prefer?
Mahirap.
Mahirap?
Yan.
Okay. Pero like you said, pwedeng outsider.
Pwede rin. Wala namang
Meron bang matunog na pangalan ng isang outsider na tingin mo yun ang...
Sa ngayon, wala akong naririnig.
Wala. Okay, you'd rather not venture a guess.
Mahirap eh.
Okay, since ayaw niyong sabihin kung sino yung nababalita ang mag-Chief Justice, sa Ombudsman naman, may balita kayo?
Ombudsman,
End of July kasi magre-retire na si Conchita
wala
Carpio
akong
Morales.
balita. Wala rin.
Okay. We cannot really tell, no, what the president is
Mahirap
going to do.
pangunahan si Presidente.
Mahirap din siyang basahin.
Mahirap basahin. Mahirap.
Talaga. But you think he will go for what kind of an ombudsman, what kind of a chief justice?
Integrity. Integrity talaga.
Okay. When you say integrity, how would you define that?
Yung hindi mo pwedeng questionin yung kanyang pagkatao.
Let's talk about dissolution of marriage, the bill that is your kumbaga pet legislation, and yung civil union. Can we ano ba yung status update niya? What has happened to it so far? No?
Yung dissolution of marriage, no? Or yung iba tinatawag nilang divorce.
Bakit nga ba hindi divorce bill na lang? Para hindi masyadong...
Para sa akin kasi, nung final ko yung aking version ng bill, sabi ko, why should I call it divorce? Sa totoo lang, dissolution of marriage talaga yun eh. You file a petition to dissolve your marriage, di ba? Dissolution talaga siya. So, yun inaprubahan namin dito sa House of Representatives. So, nandun ngayon sa Senado yun. Hopefully, makita rin nila yung necessity nung batas na yun. Kasi, Pia, ang dami talagang nag-aantay na maipasa yan.
And that's because they have difficulty getting an annulment.
Mahirap
for example, no?
Mahirap talaga. Because ang grounds mo ng annulment, kailangan nag-exist siya before or during the celebration of marriage. Hindi pwedeng after eh. Yung dissolution of marriage, yung grounds niyan after the celebration of marriage.
Okay, so kumbaga if you had a problem, pwedeng cropped up later on.
Halimbawa, infidelity, di ba? Yung mga ganon, yung mga nambubugbog, pwede mag-apply ito. Pwede siyang mag-petition for the dissolution of marriage.
Well, this bill is an interesting story because this is one of is it the only measure that was co-sponsored even by opposition?
Yeah, so far
lawmakers?
under my speakership, this is the only bill na nagsama yung majority at minority. Pati pa yung Makabayan Black, yung mga nagsama talaga.
Okay, so you're just waiting for the Senate to work on it. Yung civil union naman, hindi rin yung ito tinawag na same-sex marriage because...
No, it is not marriage.
No marriage.
Hindi talaga marriage ito. This is just a union between two persons, same-sex or opposite sex, na ayaw nilang pumasok sa marriage.
Okay, and this is...
Na nagsasama sila.
Okay. Ito yung parang living in.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. So these are, what are these? Parang the rules that govern benefits for people like these?
This is just civil union. Na merong protection yung two individuals living together, whether opposite or same-sex.
Okay. When you say protection, meaning?
Meaning, halimbawa, support from each other.
Okay.
Tapos, halimbawa, ngayon kasi, same-sex or opposite sex, yung isang hospital. May mga pinipirmahan dun sa hospitals.
Right. Parang next of kin. And then, kung hindi naman kayo kasal...
Hindi kayo relative, hindi kayo magkaano-ano, hahanapin pa kung sino yung pipirma eh.
Okay.
Yung mga waiver, yung mga kung ano.
So you're saying this law will allow, will say na you para bang recognized as next of kin? Ganon ba yun? Okay.
Kasi kayo talaga yung magkasama eh. Tapos yung insurance policies, pwede maging beneficiary, di ba? Yung partner mo.
Yeah, okay. So in other words, very practical applications that recognizes relationships that like these that already exist.
Para wala namang wala bang nagsasamantala.
Second to the last question about the church. So in the last month or so, last month and a half, the president, of course, has let go of very colorful words against the Catholic Church. What do you feel about it personally, and how do you think this can be resolved? Apart from the fact that nag-meeting naman sila, no, nagda-dialogue din naman.
Well, para sa akin, tama naman si presidente, no? Kasi ang problema sa Catholic Church, nakikialam sila sa gobyerno. Yung trabaho ng gobyerno, gusto nilang pakialaman. Yung doktrina nila, gusto nilang gawing batas ng gobyerno. Ginagalang namin yung separation of powers. Yun ang doktrina mo, yun ang paniniwala mo, go ahead. Pero, preach that doon sa mga membro mo. Hindi lang Katoliko ang relihiyon sa buong bansa. Dapat igalang nila yung trabaho ng gobyerno. Huwag nilang pakikialaman.
Yeah. And is that why the president can let go of all those very colorful words?
Yeah, I think so. Oh.
Okay. All right. Last question and then final words. The ombudsman indicted former President Aquino for the disbursement acceleration program that happened just in June. Kasama din si Butch Abad, no? You think this is the right move, even as it is also seen as the Duterte administration, quote unquote, going after the former or the past administration?
Para sa akin kasi, Pia, kahit na anong administrasyon, kung nakita mong somebody committed a crime, di ba? O kaya transgressions, di ba? Kailangan talaga panagutan yan.
Final words, Speaker?
Well, bilang Pilipino, sana magsama-sama tayo, magkaisa para sa mga kinakailangang pagbabago ng ating bansa. At wala naman tayong ibang hangarin kundi pagandahin ang buhay ng bawat Pilipino.